Morning. All right. How are you guys feeling this morning? Last day. So, thank you for joining us. Toby and I will be exploring this challenge. Although the context is a tech industry context, I feel this is fundamental to what it means to be human. So, I want to start with introductions. I want to invite Toby to tell us a little bit about himself.
Thank you, Ravi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Toby, and I'm a consultant at Deloitte, advising on advising financial service clients with managing digital risk. Um, Banks, pensions, as you know, they're moving from legacy systems to modern solutions. So we assess the technology, assess their current state, and provide recommendations on how to go about moving to modern solutions and managing change as well as some of the cybersecurity risks that could emerge in doing so. Thank you, Ravi.
All right. Uh, Let me tell you about myself. So I'm here with Resumex. I'm the director of courseware development at Resumex. I'm also a Resumex certified facilitator. So we have a booth, and if you haven't stopped by, I'd love to chat with you at the booth after the talk is over. I'm also giving a talk immediately after this fireside chat on 7 risks for Gen AI driven product development and how you can manage them. So if that's a topic that piques your curiosity, I'd love for you to stick around. Uh, my background has been 26 years in software product development. Started off as a software engineer. I fell in love with programming when I was in the 11th grade lab, and I learned how to code on a language that most of you never heard of. It's called Pascal. So I'm a really old guy. So the first program I learned was something called as linked list, and I wrote the code and I started executing it, and there was bug after bug. But finally, when I debugged all of the bugs and it started working, man, that was such a high. And I said, if someone can pay me money to do this, life is made. So, so I get into the software engineering field because I fell in love with coding, and I discovered that as an industry, we have managed to suck the joy out of something that is so beautiful. And I was trying to figure out, how do we do this as a human race? How do we take something so beautiful and suck the joy out of it? And I realized that people like me who want to play with computers hate playing with these pesky little things called human beings. And so so I spent the next few years of my life trying to figure out, uh, how can we help people who love coding and technology learn to play better with other human beings. And the topic of today's talk is something which is related. So I'm glad that you're here. I want to explore this. So we're going to ask, Toby and I are going to ask you some questions. You've given us the gift of your time. We'd love to make this time worthwhile to you. So we'd love it if you can interact with us. So some questions. The first is, how many of you have experienced this in your team, in your family? Somebody says, man, that's not my problem. It's driving me crazy. Okay, show of hands. All right. What's it feel like when this happens? Terrible. Tell me more. Why is it terrible? Yeah, yeah, that feels horrible. Anyone else? Yeah. One of my clients used to say, don't throw a dead cat at my table. And maybe this is a southern thing. So someone comes in, boss, the code is broken again. Dead cat. You go fix it. See ya. And my client would say, come on, man, don't throw a dead cat at my table. If you got a problem, come and give me some options. Maybe 3 options. Boss, here's a plan A, plan B, plan C. Here are the pros and cons. I recommend plan B. Here's what I would like to do to fix it. What do you say? Right? That's what we. Um, Toby, what
Yeah.
other questions would you like to ask?
Well, I was just going to add that, the challenge is if everyone says it's not my problem, then it's everyone's problem because eventually it gets out there and it starts to impact the organization as a whole. So, yeah, we just want to have this conversation about why ownership is important. Some other questions that we had are, yeah, what has been the impact that you face from, the organization or leadership saying this is not my problem?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Absolutely. There's a lot of cross lines and bureaucracy, right? When that happens, like, okay, you should be doing this and you should be doing that, and nothing ever gets done. So that's great to share in terms of the impact. Ravi, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, so I have a question. Imagine you had a magic wand and you could wave this magic wand in every team that you are part of. And with this magic wand, you could erase this not my problem. What would you see happening instead? How would people be different instead of passing responsibilities around, pointing the finger, feeling terrible? People would, yeah, people would own up, people would fix the problem. What else would happen in this beautiful world? Henry and then Michael. Yeah, very cool. Thank you. Michael, more collaboration. What else? Unity. What a beautiful experience that would be. Unity, collaboration, protocols. And nobody wakes up in the morning and goes to work with the burning desire to say, I want to say, not my problem. That's not who we are. We want to go to work. We want to come back home with a sense of fulfillment, joy, and a sense of pride that we left it all on the court. Some games we lost, some we won, but we were unified, we were collaborative, and we're going to fight again tomorrow. But we are having fun. That's a world we want to build. That's a kind of company. What would it feel like if that's a kind of company you worked in, man? Right? You wouldn't have to sit outside before you get on a Zoom call or on the parking lot, clenching yourself, putting on your armor, like, oh my God, I'm going to go in meeting after meeting, and people are going to say, not my problem, and I don't have to do that, right? That would set your soul on fire. That would set my soul on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes this attitude is unintentional. Like we have so many responsibilities to deal with as leaders, as employees, and things just keep falling through the cracks, and over time that tends to build up, and before you know it, it becomes something bigger than what it was initially. And so, yeah, it's important to document some of these risks, some of these issues, assess them over time, and make sure that someone's accountable to addressing it. Once we let these things go unchecked, then they can be a bigger problem.
Yeah. So I want to tell you something, an analogy I read in a book called Crucial Conversations. So if you haven't read these books, there are three books I love: Crucial Conversations, Crucial Confrontations, and Influencer. But what I loved about Crucial Conversations was the author said that festering conflicts, and not my problem is part of a festering conflict pattern. They are like a slab of rotting cheese that you leave on your kitchen table. It's getting gross, but it's stinking up the whole damn kitchen. But everybody's saying, not my problem. You're hoping someone else picks up that rotting slab of cheese and throws it in the trash, but it's ego. I am not going to do it again. And guess what? That rotting slab of cheese is not going to age well. It's not like a Picasso or a wine. It's not going to grow on you. It is going to grow some things, but there'll be some growth growing on on it. So festering conflicts have to be tackled. And one of the things we'd like to explore is, as Henry said, what are the protocols? How are we going to be with each other when the going gets tough? So I have a question. Toby and I are here because we would love for each one of you to take one actionable insight after this talk, so that wherever you encounter this problem, you have something new to try. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But what happens is, when we are stuck in life and we keep doing the same thing over and over again, if you always do what you always done, you always get what you always got. So sometimes you need some fresh idea from outside. Even if it's a ridiculous idea, you try it, and what happens is God or the universe, whatever is your persuasion, opens up a new window where something else is waiting for you on the other side. So our wish is that you walk away with at least one shift. So I have a question for you. What question would you like us to explore together so that you have an actionable tip after this session?
Any fires brewing at work that you like to address now?
Yeah, yeah. What do you do if people don't buy into collaboration and unity, and their set of values are might be different than your values, but you're stuck. You got to work with them. Yeah. How? What do you do? So maybe Toby, I'll start, and then you can add your thoughts. The first thing that I have learned, and this is embarrassing. First of all, that triggers me a lot, what you just said, because these are very deep core values. And when I'm with those people, and in fact, I'm in situations right now where I have that experience, my body starts tightening up. And before I get on a call with them, it's tightening up. I received an email this morning and I felt something like that was going on. And I woke up, I had so much peace and calm and serenity, and I see that email and like, oh crap. And then a part of me gets, it's like launches, and it's almost like a tape that starts playing. Man, this person always does, right? And it can change the trajectory of my day, right? So there's something I learned from, I think it was Carl Jung. I think he's the father of modern psychoanalysis. And one of the things, I hope I'm not butchering it, that Carl Jung said is, whenever I see something in another person that's triggering me, it's reminding me of a part of myself that I don't like. Now that is scary, because then what I have to do is I have to look in the mirror and I have to say, wait a minute, Ravi, is there some place in your life where you are being this person? And there's bad news and there's good news and bad news. The good news is, actually there's bad news and worse news. The bad news is I find out a situation like, oh crap, I am being this person, and usually it's in my marriage or parenting. The worst news is I can't find any area of my life where I'm doing that, which means that when I find out, it's very difficult, right? So I ask myself, when do I stop being collaborative? And I'm working with a coach. I realize I stop being collaborative when one of my other values gets threatened. And I'm a purpose driven person, but if I feel that the other person's heart is not pure, I start digging in and I become a rigid person. So my coach taught me something. Ravi, be curious, not furious. I don't know if there is psychological backing for this, but I think I read somewhere it's impossible to be both. It's like two different gears of a car. You can either be furious or be curious. The moment you engage the curiosity gear, it disengages the furiosity gear, right? So the first thing I'm trying, which is hard, is to have compassion for the other person and say, hey, this person might be a God's child like me and something funky is going on. Let me be curious and ask that person, hey, tell me a little bit more. And this could be the protocol that Henry mentioned. Just like you get on a flight and the flight attendant say, hey, if there's turbulence, you put on your mask, look around, and then you put on the mask, help others, right? The first thing that I'm doing in terms of designing the protocol is first realize I'm tightening up. I got triggered. Let me first put on my mask. Let me be kind to my inner child. And then second, when I'm getting my oxygen, engage the curiosity gear and ask the other person, hey, tell me more. I noticed this happen. Could you tell me what's going on? So that's my suggestion. Toby, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I completely agree with that approach. It's going back to the fundamentals. Well, both humans, if it's someone else that you're dealing with, right? They have challenges, they have dreams, they have hopes, and they also have fears. And if you engage with them from that level of trying to understand where they're coming from, what are some of the issues that are going on inside of them that are causing some of these behaviors to manifest, and you start to realize that they're just like you. You might have something else going on that maybe you show up like that to somebody else. And so, as Ravi mentioned, having that compassion, having that empathy to say, okay, I'll step back, let me think about what's happening, and then focus on fundamentals. What is that shared mission and that goal that they have, right? They might not be collaborating right now because they think maybe their goals that they have personally are more important than the collaborative goals that you have as an organization. And sometimes people struggle to have that balance between what I want versus what others want. And so you have to have a moment with them to figure out, okay, we're in this together. What are some of the things that I can help you with, and what are some of the things that you can help me with? And together, we can work out this problem and address this not my problem attitude. Um, and I think uh, some of the causes for this attitude is burnout, right? Workload, they're dealing with a lot. Sometimes bureaucracy, they are frustrated with all of the processes that they have to go through to make sure a certain outcome is achieved. And so having that heart-to-heart conversation unravels some of these issues. And as you begin to peel back the layers, then you'll be able to identify, okay, what can we collaborate together to make this a more harmonious effort and engagement. So that's what I would recommend. It's having that empathic conversation. They might have done things in the past that may have hurt you or hurt the dynamic between the both of you, but starting with a clean, fresh slate to see them as a human, I think, uh, sets that foundation, sets the wheels going to resolve those issues.
Thank you for that wonderful question. Any follow-ups or another question? If not, we are going to continue. So I want to build on that. I want to talk about a little bit about the protocols, and would like to give you actionable step-by-step tools from the world of systems coaching. So I have a couple of blogs and videos on this topic. The first technique I want to share, if this happens, is in the world of systems coaching, I learned a technique which is called putting the problem out in front. So imagine Toby and I have a conflict, and I'm feeling like, man, Toby's doing this again. He's not interested in unity. He's not interested in collaboration. And I can't stand to work with him. It's tightening up my body. If we were to disengage the curiosity gear and engage the curiosity gear, one adjustment we could make is, if we are physically in the same room, instead of sitting across the table, which we might if we have an adversarial relationship, what if we stood side by side and then imagine the problem is physically out in front. It may appear like trivial, like, hey, how can the physical change in position change your thinking? I'm inviting you to try it out. Sometimes the body has more wisdom than the mind can comprehend. If you are on a Zoom call, uh, you could physically change your location and imagine that both of you, even though you are miles apart, are looking at the problem out in front, and then give each other an opportunity to say, hey, what do you see? What's it feel like to be you? And see if you can elevate the conversation, not from your position and my position, but from the perspective of the customers and the users. Chances are, assuming positive intent, you both are trying your level best to take care of the customer and the user and the investors and the team. It's just that you may have a different preferred path to the destination. So one possibility, I'm starting with that assumption of good intent. I realize that there are times when that may not be true, but that's my starting point. If I start with that assumption of good intent, and then I ask Toby, hey Toby, what's it feel like to be you? What do you see? What's going on right now, and how is it impacting our customers, users, investors, and our team members? And then just listen. And then see if Toby can reciprocate. And Toby asks me. We are both standing at like a mountaintop and seeing some view. And if we just pause and stand in each other's shoes and see what the other person is seeing, who knows, a breakthrough might emerge. So the technique I would like you to add to your toolkit is problem out in front. Okay, Toby, what would you like to add, if anything?
I think it's important as an organization leader to do pulse checks on your team to see what are some of the major things that are going on for them. Like I mentioned earlier, they might be dealing with a lot of bureaucratic processes. They might be working in silos because that's how the organization was structured, maybe from a long time ago. And now that times have changed and things are a lot more agile, there are a lot more external threats. Sometimes you might need to change that structure, and employees, they see some of those challenges, but maybe they're afraid to come to you because someone else had done that in the past and it didn't work out so well for them. So it's very important to have that open posture towards them and do pulse checks, have some visibility with them to check in, okay, how are the collaboration efforts going across teams, and also to know, yeah, what are some of the day-to-day challenges that are emerging? What are some of the things that are growing? Like Ravi mentioned, the cheese that's on the kitchen table and no one wants to deal with it. I think having that open posture will serve you well as an organization in the long run because it encourages that culture of someone sees something, they say something, and you do something about it. And it's very important, that last part, to do something about it, because that builds trust between you as a leader and your team, because they know that um, that proactive behavior is being rewarded, that it means something at the end of the day. So very important to have that in your organization as well.
Yeah, and please pepper us with questions so that you know ours is not the only voice. I have a if I were to play devil's advocate, where have you seen a situation, or what might be the reason why when someone sees something they don't say something? Have you seen it? Has anyone seen this? Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. That's part of the human condition. We crave connection. We want to be connected to each other. I found out about this when COVID happened, and I lost the ability to interact with others. I was dying to go to a Starbucks, even if I didn't talk to anyone, just to be around human beings. So we have so many conflicting agendas and valid human needs. One need is I want to be liked, and I don't want to be the person who is always bringing up things which are difficult. I don't want to be the naysayer. People won't want to come to me, or they won't invite me to meetings. Another could be, what if I look silly? People are like, what? That is crazy. How could you even say that? Or what if it becomes my problem? So I raise the problem and then like, okay, when are you going to fix it? Right? So what happens is I notice something. I may oscillate between two extremes. One is everything is my problem, or the other is nothing is my problem. And it's good to introspect and to figure out, hey, what's going on? I noticed that today I saw something, but I didn't say something. What other value might be trying to be honored? Is it my need to be liked? Is it my need to look wise? Is it my need to not get more on my plate because I'm so overloaded? It could also be my need to be psychologically safe because, as Toby mentioned, there could be a horror story where somebody saw something and they said something and they are no longer in the company. They were part of the next reduction in force, right? So, psychological safety is so important. And one of the things that I am learning is that when somebody sees something and says something, everybody else is watching to see how does the leader react. And if the leader celebrates that truth, even though it may be an unpleasant truth, it becomes part of the company legend. Oh, in this company, it's cool. If you see something, you say something, you will be rewarded and appreciated with gratitude. It becomes part of the company legend. However, if the leader snaps at that person or criticizes that, people are watching, that gets burned into the firmware of the company. It could be 10 years later, both the leader who snapped at the person and the follower who said something, they are no longer in the company, but that story has been handed down from generation to generation, right? So it's so important that the leaders shape the culture not by words, but by their actions. Thoughts, questions, where do we go next? Oh, yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. Such a great question, Jiju, right? So uh, I want to get back to the protocols that Henry suggested. I want to give you maybe three protocols, actionable tools that you can apply the moment you finish this, attending Fuel. The first is a tool from the world of coaching called a designed alliance, or in the agile world, we call it a working agreement. When we form a team, or let's say we reboot a team, these are the kinds of questions that we ask, which is, why do you want to be part of this team? What do you want the team identity to be? What do you want the team atmosphere or culture to be? This is the most important question. What might make things difficult on our team? And if you create psychological safety, people might bring up questions like this. Hey, you know what drives me crazy? What drives me batshit crazy is when people say, not my problem. All right, so that's what might make things difficult. Fantastic. How do you want us to be when we are experiencing things which drive each other crazy? None of us is smarter than all of us. The team has the wisdom. If we bring a skilled facilitator, and if each person says, you know what, here's how I would like us to be as a team when this not my problem pattern comes up. And then the facilitator can say, okay, you know what, next time this happens, let's try this. So what you're doing is you're building the protocol when times are good. It's like depositing money in your savings account because you know life will happen. There will be that accident or the illness or something. And you need to draw upon that balance when times are bad. But the balance will be empty if you don't deposit in it when times are good. So the first thing I would suggest is co-create a designed alliance with your team. So that's the first protocol. I might have a couple more, but I don't want to hog the microphone. Toby, what would you like to add?
Yeah, that's a great question, Juju. I think, as Ravi mentioned, you want to design a process, right, that carries forward what you want as a leader to see as part of your team culture. And so, yes, it's very important to set the framework at the beginning, have that conversation with your team, facilitate what each team member wants to see as part of the team, and also collaborate with them on what that shared framework looks like. But it's also important to design your processes to recognize people that follow along or demonstrate those values that you work together on as a team. So that looks like recognizing proactive behavior. So people who have taken the initiative to say, hey, I've seen this thing, here's a potential solution. I would need some resources to be able to work together on on solving this. And you as a leader come forward and say, yes, we can work together with so and so person to make this happen. Sometimes that may not present itself at all times, right? You have different priorities of the business, and in those situations, you want to plan out how, based on the priority, when that's going to be addressed, just so that the team members feel welcome to be able to share some of those things, and also to feel that sense of confidence and trust that you, as a leader, um, hold, that your words are congruent with what you've mentioned from the beginning as a shared framework. Um, Yeah, I think that's a very key tenet in terms of recognizing and also setting that framework. But it's not just you doing it once, right? It's ensuring that that consistency is there over time because, as Ravi mentioned, you want to keep that story consistent, that you're someone that they can trust, that your organization is a place, it's an environment that is not toxic, it's an environment that is trustworthy and encourages these behaviors. So, to cap it all up, it's having that structure, having that shared foundation as a team, and keeping the lines of communication open.
And repetition is important. So this morning when all you guys, everybody woke up, how many of you brushed your teeth? Show of hands. We didn't think. It's muscle memory. How is it tied to Jiju's question? Uh, one technique or protocol I want to add, I want to give you a library of protocols, right? One technique I want you to consider to add to your toolkit is from the world of agile. There are two things that healthy agile teams, especially there's a framework called Scrum that I believe in, they do. Approximately, I would say every 2 weeks, they do something known as a sprint review. In a sprint review, you all stand shoulder to shoulder, could be physically or virtually, and you look at the value. What value did we deliver to our customers, users, investors, partners? If you use a baseball analogy, one of my clients gave me this analogy, and I know nothing about baseball. I am a cricket lover, and when I see baseball, my brain explodes because when I look at the scoreboard, nothing makes sense. I've been here 24 years. By now it should, but it doesn't. But uh, one of my clients said that a sprint is like having an opportunity to bat in baseball. You get 26 opportunities in a year. There are 52 weeks in the year. And if you divide them into 2 week sprints, you get 26 strikes. Make them count, right? So a sprint review is a way to look back at 2 weeks and do a mini project review. We had a 2 week project. Did we or did we not deliver value? The second protocol is immediately after the sprint review, you have something known as a retrospective. That's more about culture, values. So if it turns out that you did not deliver as much value to your customers, investors, and your users as you were hoping in this last 2 weeks, a great place to be curious is in the retrospective and ask, what happened? What can we learn? And if there's psychological safety, somebody will say, man, we had this not my problem issue again. The build broke, or we deployed something that didn't work. I'm so sick of it. Okay, let's go to the other protocol, our designed alliance. How did we say we would be if this happened? Is it okay to try that out? And the retrospective is the place where you find out. The last protocol I'll give you is from the book Influencer, which is the third book in the Crucial Conversation, Crucial Confrontation and series. They gave a table. Whenever you have a problem, create a matrix and try to diagnose, is this an ability issue or a willingness issue? Ability, imagine there are two columns, ability and willingness. Now there are rows. The first row is self. Start with reflection. Is it that this person is unable or the person is unwilling? Second row is the team. I hope I'm not butchering it, it's been a while. Is it that the team is unable and or the team is unwilling? So the person is both. If the person is not able, send them to training. They're willing. But if the person is able but not willing, then you have the curiosity conversation. Hey, tell me what it feels like to be you. How do you feel that the way you are advocating for will help customers, users, and investors? And if their fundamental intention is misaligned, it may be time to make a change, right? You can either change the people or change the people. But assuming that it's not a willingness issue and it's not an ability issue, you don't need to send them to training. Then you go to the next level, you elevate. Is it that the team is stopping this person who is able and willing from doing what's the right thing? If that's the case, again, address it at the team level. Or is it an organizational issue? There's a systemic barrier. The company itself doesn't want to do this, or the company is unwilling. So if you look at this problem through these lenses, maybe something will shift. But just remember, ask the team. None of us is smarter than all of us. So my advice is don't try to have one project manager or leader try to solve the problem. Create an atmosphere where you tap into the team's wisdom. Great question, Jiju. What else is coming up for you? What might cause this to break? Be the devil's advocate. Or come up with another question so that this is a good session for you. Yes. Yeah. Not my problem, right? That might have been. Other thoughts, questions. Imagine you are applying some of the ideas that you learned here. Where do you think it's going to break up? What might work and what might not work?
Well, what I can think of, Ravi, is, let's say from a system perspective, if you have an organization that has built their processes, from many years back, let's say 20 plus years, and maybe there's a problem that has been identified, and they realize, oh, it's going to take a long time to fix this, systemic issue. So how would you propose going about that? Like, from a systemic perspective, how do you recommend that this be addressed?
Yeah. And I I can see the change. I can see the challenge in myself. So as human beings, it's so hard to change. So this in the morning, I see people who've come to the conference, but they're waking up early and they go jogging. And it's been my to-do list. Like, man, I want to be healthy. I know it's the right thing, but I'm not able to do it. I'm almost 50 years old, right? I've got 50 years of established behavior. So damn hard. And if you multiply this by a 10-person team or a 100-person organization or a 1,000-person organization that's been in existence for 25 years, it's like 25,000 years of institutionalized behavior. And when I was younger and more naive, I would think that I can change it. It's not that easy. So the first thing I would recommend is to acknowledge, man, this is so damn hard. To acknowledge the magnitude of the challenge that we are up against. The second is to normalize it. Hey, you're not the first who has traveled this path. We're not going to be the last. This is normal. One of the things that freaks us out as human beings is when we are suffering, at least it happens to me, is like, oh my God, is there something wrong with me? Is there something wrong with our company? But if someone comes around and says, no, there's nothing wrong. This is part of the human condition. Perfectly normal. My anxiety level goes down. When my anxiety level goes down, I'm not in a survival mode. I'm not like an animal fighting for survival. I can engage other parts of my brain for creative problem solving. So first, acknowledge it. Second, normalize it. Maybe third, name it. This is what we are dealing with. When you name it, it opens up a library of protocols and toolkits that you can then go and choose from. Right? And the last thing I would say is attach it to another habit. So I haven't read the book, but I've heard there's a book called Habit Stacking, where somebody said, okay, if you want to do sit-ups, but you're not finding time, this is for people like me, attach the habit of doing sit-ups to brushing your teeth. So after you brush your teeth, do 10 sit-ups, right? So you took a habit and then you attached it. All right?
Yeah, that's an actual good recommendation. It's from Atomic Habits by James Clear. Um, I think it's as you mentioned, Ravi. It's important to keep the emotional levels, stable when these challenges occur, right? And also um, name it, assess what needs to change, assess what needs to remain the same, and organize a team, collaborate to figure out how that change is going to be made. Like from change management, this is going to be a big change, for an organization that has, had all of the systemic knowledge and systemic frameworks for 20 plus years. So you have to start from, chipping away at the things that are easier to manage, and then overall give people a roadmap to understand, okay, this is sort of like the open heart surgery that needs to be made. And then work with what people are comfortable with changing with, just to build that momentum. And once that momentum is great and people start to see the positive impact that's had on the team, on overall organization, then that builds that buy-in to make that open heart surgery complete. Key things that you need to identify are the key players that are going to make that happen, because you can't do it by yourself, right? It's a team effort when it comes to making changes on an organizational level. So you have to have those key players that are willing and are able to take on the task, and identify the resources that are enthusiastic enough to make that change, right? Um, and that's the key to having a successful organization. Um, you have to identify those people who want to make that change and who don't want to just leave it on the back burner and say it's not my problem. So yeah.
So, closing thoughts. I want to leave you with maybe this might be protocol overload, but two more protocols. One might be debunked. Uh, there is a DABDA model created by, I think it's Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It's about how to handle grief. Uh, Change brings grief. Even good change brings grief. The DABDA model is denial. Man, I can't believe this is happening. Anger. How dare they do this? Bargaining. Maybe I will be spared. Depression. I am so screwed. Acceptance. Fine, I'm going to make it work. I've seen change in the past. I can navigate this, right? One thing to remember if you are trying to guide organizational change is that change brings loss, loss brings grief. People grieve in different ways, people grieve at different paces, and people have different needs during the grieving process. So, one protocol that you could put in place is first to acknowledge change brings grief. Second protocol, recognize that there is diversity of needs in our team. And third is to have compassion and patience to allow people to travel at the pace. And sometimes you go back and forth. And the last protocol I would say is put on your oxygen mask and then ask others, what do you need and how may I support you? And honor that. So, not my problem whether it's tech or it's your family or anywhere. I think it requires a deep reservoir of compassion and self-awareness. And remember, be curious, not furious. So, closing thoughts. Next speaker is me, by the way. So I want to be respectful of the next speaker. Any closing thoughts, Toby?
Yeah, absolutely. It's important to have that culture of ownership, right? Responsibility is what makes the world go round. And if we all just said, it's not my problem, like everything is just going to go wrong, we won't have the positive outcomes that we want from our families, from our communities, from our organizations, and even our governments, right? And so we all need to start from within, start from a place that you have from something that you've seen that's not going right. Say something about it. Find people that you can work together with to solve that problem, that issue, and celebrate it. It's don't just stop at, oh, we've done it, now on to the next thing. You have to celebrate all the small wins that you have along the way to build that positive reinforcement that what you're doing matters and what you're doing has an impact on the world. So yeah, building that culture from the ground up takes a lot of self-awareness. It takes a team, and yeah, you have to keep working on doing that consistently, because that's what makes people have hope. That's what builds trust in our communities, and that's what helps build things that people will be able to celebrate for the long term. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you so much for the gift of your time, and I hope you found something useful in what we shared. And if you're interested in 7 risks of Gen AI-driven product development, stick around. Otherwise, it was a joy to share space with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.